This is Bible School Radio, KDKR, Decatur, Dallas, Fort Worth, KYJC, Commerce, and KMWC, Bethany. Portions of KDKR programming do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or staff.
Prudent Money with Bob Brooks is sponsored by the Prudent Money Foundation on 91.3.
Well, could inflation be coming back again? Today we're going to take a look. Stay tuned for Prudent Money. Good afternoon, this is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. Sorry about the technical difficulties there on the beginning of the program. What I meant to say, if you heard it, I'm having some issues with this mic, and I keep forgetting to get the part that I need to get to fix it. Is inflation coming back again? And I tell you what, we got a lot to cover today, and it's interesting to me because there's actually a lot going on in the economy and the markets in the Middle East. I mean, you name it, and just barely getting any coverage in the media. So we're going to talk about what is happening because of a strike, and what is happening with a certain kind of debt, and what is happening with the price of oil. So John Hupalo comes on the program once a month, and John is one of the foremost experts on college admissions, planning, and student loan debt. And we'll get real deep into this tomorrow. But it's perfect timing, and I don't know why that I'm just now hearing about this. But it's a program that's called the Fresh Start Program. And it basically works this way. If you are in default on your student loans, the government now has a program that can basically give you a fresh start, a do-over. Now, there's really no good solutions to this student loan debt and the problems that go along with it. I mean, if it were up to me and I could change it, I would, first of all, lower the interest rates, because that's better that we're getting paid back something. I'll lower the interest rates and set it up to where if you are in default, that you can get a do-over. And this is what this is. It's the opportunity to start over. And they're estimating that about 8 million borrowers were in default pre-COVID. And I'm not sure what the number of defaults. In fact, I don't even know if you really could have added to that default total, just because from 2020, March of 2020 until just this last year, you got a free ride. You didn't have to pay anything on student loan debt. And then they gave a year kind of a ramp up that even if you didn't pay it, you're supposed to pay it, but if you didn't pay it, it won't be counted against you. And so they're coming out with, and I think this is pretty aggressive, but the one thing that they could do to help people out in the biggest of ways is to let them do a do-over. And that is exactly what is happening. Now, the first due date for this was going to be today. So they've extended the date for you to sign up for this program till 3 a.m. on the 3rd. So we'll be talking about this in detail tomorrow when John comes on the program. I just wanted to bring it up because I want to make sure that you had a heads up as to as to what this opportunity is. I mean, if you're in default at all, it's I think extremely important that you give this go to this web link and give them a call. They claim it takes 10 minutes to get signed up for it. But the link that you would go to is studentaid.gov/fresh start. They also talk about collections go away. You don't have to deal with collections. And they also take everything off that was negative off of your credit report. That's huge. A huge opportunity to take advantage of. So once again, that deadline is going to be going through until 3 a.m. Wednesday. Now, where they got the 3 a.m. Wednesday, I have no idea. But that's what the deal is. So I would definitely take advantage of this. Makes total sense. Now, haven't really seen a whole lot about that in the media. The strike. Have you heard about the strike of the International Longshoremen's Association? This is the port workers. Very, very important role that they play in the supply chain of getting widgets, if you will, from point A to point B, or getting apples from point A to point B. And it's been almost 50 years since the port workers went on strike. And this is along the East and Gulf coasts, which could increase prices. Because let me say this before I tell you what we're looking at. We're talking about, so once again, remember, inflation is a supply and demand issue. It occurs when there's very little supply and there's great demand. So when that happens, the prices go up and continue to go up until that balances out. Now, of course, we're seeing more supply on the markets and the demand has settled down just a bit. But one of the things that I've always warned you about, when it is still important to kind of be on alert, because the inflation that we had was very complex, and it was made up, and the reason that we had the inflation was a lot of different issues all at once, kind of a perfect storm. So really, the only way that you could completely wipe out this kind of inflation, and even though it's stable right now, there's always the chance it can go up. I know this is not really what you probably want to hear, but I think it's important to be understanding of what could happen. You'd have to go through a severe recession. And I actually thought that would happen at least a year ago, but it never did. And I think that this is actually probably a better situation than a severe recession, because it would take a really deep recession to wipe out all that inflation. So we're talking about autos and a host of consumer goods and things, and it's supposed to potentially affect grocery stores, just all types of different things that could go up in price. So what most experts are suggesting, and I'll read you some of these quotes here in a second, that this is something that will not last long in duration. But there's some really interesting dynamics that are going on here. And of course, they timed this strike at the most perfect time, which would be right at the elections. Because, as you can imagine, if you're on the Democrat side of the board, you don't want to have a big drop in employment right before the election, nor do you want to have a big drop in growth. Well, I don't think you have to worry about growth, because that's not going to be something that is that's going to be reported in time for before the elections. However, you could see a drop in employment, and that could be something that affects the elections. November 1st is the October employment report, and then you've got the elections on the 5th, I believe. So hard to believe that it's October 1st. I know it's unbelievable that it's October the 1st. But there's a lot of politics that are interwoven, that are part of all of this. And even President Biden has the powers granted by the Taft-Hartley Act, which was back in 1930, I believe, to where he could step in and order an 80-day cooling off period that it would at least temporarily halt the stoppage. However, that would he's very pro-union, so that's one of the reasons he wouldn't do it. And the other reason I think that he wouldn't do it is because that could backfire politically. And they're obviously being very, very careful about what they do in office. So that's that particular situation. But they are looking for a 61.5% wage increase. Let that settle for a second. 61.5% wage increase. Now you look at that and you go, how in the world is someone going to say, yeah, let's just do that and get everybody back to work? That's a big wage increase. In fact, that in itself is part of inflation. But I think there's roughly 45,000 port workers that are striking. So we want to keep an eye on this. There are, like I said, there are many that think that this is not going to be a big deal. But we'll wait and see. This is Bob Brooks. We're up against a break. Stick around. I'll be right back. Hello, this is Bob Brooks. Proverbs 22:3 and Proverbs 27:12 are the exact same verse word for word. I call them the stewardship verses of risk. A prudent person foresees danger and takes precautions. The simpleton goes blindly on and suffers the consequences. On the Prudent Money Radio Show, we teach about risk, how to identify it, how to figure it out, and what to do about it. We believe that to be a prudent steward, you have to be a good risk manager. Listen to the Prudent Money Radio Show on Bible School Radio 91.3. Prudent Money, home of the modern-day steward movement.
Hi, I'm Jan Markell, host of Understanding the Times. We're very excited to be a part of Bible School Radio. I hope you will join me Saturday, 10 a.m., for cutting-edge guests and the latest information to help you discern the truth, even the inconvenient truth. We'll help you understand our times and contend for the faith. That's Understanding the Times, Saturday at 10 a.m., right here on Bible School Radio or anytime at olivetreeviews.org.
Each follower of Jesus Christ has been given a unique spiritual gift to use for the glory of God. Wednesday on The Verdict, Pastor John Monroe takes a closer look at each of the gifts presented by the Apostle Paul in Romans and discusses the big picture of how they fit together in the body of Christ. Join us and learn more. Wednesday on The Verdict.
The Verdict, weekday mornings at 10:30, here on Bible School Radio, KDKR.
Welcome back. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. If you've got a question for me, I want to invite you to go to the website, www.prudentmoney.com. There's a link at the very top of the website page, and you just click through and go through and ask the question, and we'll get you taken care of. That's all at the website, www.prudentmoney.com. I was talking about some optimistic views of this strike. The North America economist at Capital Economics, his name is Bradley Saunders. He says, "We think fears around the potential economic impact are overdone. Frequent shocks to supply chains in recent years have left producers more attuned to the risks of running low inventories. It is therefore likely the firms will have taken precautionary measures in case of a strike, not least because the possibility has been touted by the ILA for months. So there you have it. I mean, nobody really knows exactly how this is going to play out. It's just that if it continues to play out over time, and we're still talking about this in a month or 2 months, we've got a real problem on our hands. And they estimate, and these aren't. I know this sounds crazy when I say this. These aren't big numbers, but they're not big numbers when you're talking about trillions of dollars, right? They're estimating somewhere between $5 and $7 billion a day in losses. Of course, that adds up, but I think it's more of the potential of inflation and how that works into the scenario. So that the timing of this for the port workers is really probably a pretty good thing. But 61.7% wage increase is what they want. So let's talk a little bit about the markets today, because markets didn't fare as well. Could have been worse, but still ended in the red. The S&P 500 was down a little bit less than 1%. The Dow Jones was down a little bit less than 0.5%. The NASDAQ was down 1.5%. That's how we started out the month of October. October has had some of the most historical declines in it on record. We had, of course, the biggest decline on record, September of 29. It basically, at the very end of September, the Dow Jones Industrial Average stopped going up, and then it proceeded to crash in a big way. I think that between the first 2 or 3 weeks in October, you were looking at a 45 to 50% decline. Now, can you imagine that? Having, say, $100,000 in your IRA, and the next thing you know, 3 weeks later, it's down to 50. Also, there was the Black Monday crash, I think 22%. That's a day that I was not in the business. That was 1987. But I was taking a stock market class, and that stock market class happened to be on that day, and there was a stock broker who was teaching it. So we, being I was at Baylor at the time, and being in school, we're kind of watching along, not really fully understanding the magnitude of a big drop like that in the stock market and everything. But we knew that and this guy comes walking in at 6 o'clock into the class. Just looks like he's been beaten up and just devoid of all energy or direction. I mean, he's just barely with us there, and had some interesting input on what had happened and how it happened. But there was that. There was a Lehman Brothers. The collapse of Lehman Brothers, I believe, was in October as well. I remember the biggest part of the financial crisis occurred, or the market's reaction occurred, in October. Having gone through that lovely bit of history about some times we don't want to relive, that's what the market kind of has in the back of its mind as we go through October. And of course, all the fun things with the election cycle. I know it's just a lot of, I'm ready for it to be over with. I don't know about you, but definitely ready to be over with and get back to business, whatever that looks like. But the Fed today came out, and this is where this kind of drives me crazy. You have the Federal Reserve Board, Fed Chairman Powell, speaking at a bank, or he's speaking somewhere. At any rate, he indicated that, we may ease a little bit more, we may not. Now he's not so sure again we've talked about this still for a long time, is that the biggest problem is he didn't need to. And then yesterday he said that the Fed felt like the economy was strong. So if the economy was so strong, why in the world would he cut it the interest rates by 0.5% when we didn't need him to? He's messing with the chemistry set a little too much. So anyway, it is what it is. But Federal Reserve Board is very optimistic, and we'll see as these things play out. 61 points. Wouldn't you like to get a raise of 61.7%? I want to wrap up today's program with some Q&A. And once again, if you've got a question, you can always go to the website, prudentmoney.com, go to the top of the page, click the link, and send it to me, and I'll get you squared away. It says, my late husband set up a lifetime annuity for me with a well-known company. I get a monthly deposit into my checking account. I called them for the value, and they told me that there was no value to it. I didn't see how it could generate monthly income if there was no value to the account. I asked to see the paperwork and said they wouldn't give it to me. So this lady is the first sentence, which for some reason didn't come on the paper. It talked about her husband being deceased, and she's trying to get some answers. Well, first of all, let's look at what a lifetime annuity is. A lifetime annuity is a annuity that pays out on the life of one or two individuals. So if it pays out on two individuals, it pays out on one, and then that one passes away, and then they go to pay off on two, and then that pays out until that individual is deceased. So what ends up happening, there's two ways to do a lifetime annuity. There is, you buy the annuity, you get the highest payout, and it has no cash value or no worth. It's just basically going to pay out until you are deceased or you and your spouse are deceased. Then there is a annuity with an income rider on it, and that will start with some surrender value, some cash accumulation, and then over time that cash accumulation will deplete until it goes away. And then when it goes away, the promise of the insurance company is that they'll still pay out the amount for the lifetime annuity, which is what the income rider does for you. Here's what I find is the problem, though. And anytime you look up an insurance company, you see all of the various negative remarks, the criticism, the complaints. And if you see a common thread with a lot of these complaints, you'll see that it almost in every case, it's the person dealing with the insurance company by themselves, no advisor to be found anywhere. And therein lies the problem, because if you don't work with insurance companies, you have to deal with trying to understand insurance speak, which is another language, and trying to navigate through the complexities of insurance products, because they're assuming you understand everything that's going on with these products, and most people don't. So that's where the frustration comes from. That's where, in this email, where this listener's frustration came from, is that nobody on the other side, when she called the insurance company, was bothered to really explain how things work to where she could understand. And it takes a lot of work to do that, and sometimes people are just lazy. But with annuities, though, it's very important that you do have a good understanding of how things work, and so that you can have a good idea of what to expect, because that is what it really does come down to, is expectation. But as I've always said, annuities can be a great investment. Just got to understand what kind you're getting yourself into. That is the key to it. Hey, this is Bob Brooks. If you got a question for me, please go to the website at prudentmoney.com and send it in, because we are all out of time. Till we do meet again next time, keep the faith and have a great rest of the day.
That's all the time we have for today. Questions or comments for Bob, or to find out more great information like what you've just heard, visit www.prudentmoney.com. Be sure to join Bob Brooks again for the next edition of Prudent Money.